Do you like my necklace?
I do.
I like
It's
wearing
cute.
it in case like vampires come around or something.
Vampires don't exist.
Yeah, I know. That's
Don't be
just woo
crazy.
woo.
Woo. I'm big enough to admit when I'm wrong, and on the topic of NPCs here on your quaint little world, I most certainly was when visiting during your last apocalypse. What can I say? I tend to lean in the direction of free will and sentience that can sustain it. Perhaps that is a personal blind spot of mine, but with my current perspective on the matter, I can certainly say I'm working on it. While I stared at the possibility of NPCs some years ago with rose colored spectacles, hoping and praying that most of the people I saw in my line of sight were real girls and boys, the last week and some change have proven to me unequivocally that most of you motherfuckers cannot be real, for your investment in the storyline of this world is far too ridiculous to be indicative of life. As I have scribbled elsewhere, the great dividing of the sheep and the goats occurred with this most recent election in your imaginary lines called America, where morons from the left and morons from the right had an intellectual clusterfuck inside their minds to justify genocide one way or another. No people, nation, or group within the national lines are worthy of liberty, freedom, or the way of life they would provide when able to justify the deprivation of such to another demographic of their own species. But that's what millions of Americans did with participating in the Great Milgram Experiment of 2024. Only this time the results weren't just to prove that a majority of people are nitwits that will do what they are told no matter what, so long as a perceived authority figure tells them to, but to implement the instant karma of empire on those who would impose it upon others, namely the Palestinian people. And while the breakneck speed of its establishment is not a surprise to me, my absolute giddy satisfaction watching it lock down upon America's neck is a bit of an unexpected surprise. In a little over a week, the Ganondorf of your world, Prezi DJT, has managed to assemble flesh suits for obvious old code from the age of the demiurge and cartoon characters such as Musk, Zuckerberg, Bezos, and the plethora of cabinet picks that throw in everyone's face that none of this fiasco is to be taken seriously, and the most rational, logical, and swift response should be non-compliance, non-consent, and paying little to no attention to any of it, at least with any authentic energy or concern. This simple escape clause was also written in your Constitution, mind you, but in order to know that, you would have to have read it. But the majority have not, will not, and do not operate outside of the powers derived from consent, and therefore are shackled like slaves in the bowels of the ship to bondage, servitude, and the empire they have been complicit in allowing to plant its flag upon them, and let us not forget their progeny. Your Prezi DJT is in fact a generic Yaldabaoth if you haven't figured this out yet, a sloppy flesh and blood meat suit behaving identically to the predecessor he parrots from Gnostic texts of old, fueled and funded by the negative attention and energy that you give it. Hiding in plain sight as the God of the Old Testament, the qualities of a racist, homophobic, genocidal, totalitarian ruler are filthy rags that fit Trump perfectly. This flawed God complex can be pegged these days in the DSM as narcissism. And as all the cool kids do, the best way to deal with such nothingness of soul is the no contact rule. Block, block, block. Pay no mind. Give it none of your energy or attention beyond what is required to sidestep its existence. Because make no mistake about this empire, the name of its old hat game is simply harvesting energy. The more things change, the more they execute the same. Think about it. The corporation of the United States is threatened to take your toy of TikTok away, only to give it back the same day, as if they were seriously going to miss out on all that sweet, sweet outrage expunged from your biocomputer over techno Nazi salutes, mind numbing confirmations to the kitchen cabinet, and a blitzkrieg of executive orders that might as well be signed in crayon by the man child beast that is the point of adoration or condemnation from the masses of NPCs who are looking at this horseshit as if it's still reality. And this horseshit show is feeding off the loosh it stirs up at a much faster rate thanks to the implementation of social media fracking of the collective psyche. TikTok was never going to be banned. It was always going to be streamlined for generic demiurge to implement flooding the zone with dumb thing after dumb thing after never ending dumb thing. So the energy crisis of attention could be averted and directed to an illegitimate government for illegitimate people, which means that the system is working exactly as it is supposed to. Knowing this, do you really want to stay subject to it? Most will, so you wouldn't be alone. And hey, I'm not complaining about that or the dystopian hellscape the simulation will become for the majority of NPCs that remain fixated with the parameters of reality established by Prezi DJT and his gaggle of dipshits with yellow-stained lips and idolatry of our present-day golden cow. The irony is too stupid to be taken seriously, as well as those who would advocate for or rage against this current technocratic machine. It's simply not worth it, ye with eyes to see and ears to hear. While it may be tempting to jump headfirst into the fray of this technological soul grinder and find a place in the choir of noise with protests or proclamations, your humble author, narrator, and fictional character cannot caution you enough about investing seriously in the simulation we are now so obviously operating within. Because my educated guess is that it's about to be uploaded to a cloud and pointed to a different servers that will fall into the palms of Prezi DJT's cult of personality orgy on planet Mar-a-Lago. Ooh, just ooh. The appeal of temptation in joining the game the government hath designed will be the appearance of numbers on the bandwidth wagon. The scores of nameless faces and voices on your platform of preference seem really passionate about taking a position one way or the other. And I am so kind to remind you of the Maya in which they make their bed. To participate with the set and setting of an artificial reality makes you a prop of the programming, or what those in the know call NPCs, the backdrop people, limited in their processing power for the purpose of providing the illusion of immersion for those authentically logged in to play the game of life. And the good news is that now in this fascist phase of comical characters in Columbia's district and corporation, the NPCs are incredibly easy to spot, as they will be taking this comedy of the absurd as convincingly serious as a piece of code can simulate. Just look for purple hair on half and red caps on the other. Non-player characters, characters that are subject to programming and parameters that are not of their own choosing or design. They can only view their situation horizontally and push or pull it from the limited perspective they hold. They facilitate the simulation's functions and sustain its existence, regardless of their protests or support. To enjoy the game, a top-down Legend of Zelda perspective must be acquired, a higher state of awareness and consciousness that is always there to subtly remind you that it's just a game as you level up within it. Nothing new here, as it's certainly been said before. Be in this illusory world, but not of the Maya it is made of. Do you like it?
I love it. I like it.
Pretty good, right? You believe in the moon. You believe in the moon.